Hey, King.
What's up?
I love you.
Oh, you do now? Hey, you just applications, ain't it?
No applications. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. There's no girls in your mouth. You can't do that. Your teeth is white, though.
It is? No.
I said I love you.
I love you too, baby.
No, I take it back because you took too long. You're not being very nice to me today.
I was street.
You was no.
You know what?
Hey, Tristan. Tristan.
Hi, Mommy.
What's up, Tristan?
Hi, Mommy.
Columbia, South Carolina, December 22nd, 2021. A group of concerned citizens gather in a local park. They hold missing person flyers, share updates on social media, and coordinate search routes through nearby neighborhoods. At the center of this effort stands Taylor Wardlaw, visibly distressed as she pleads for information about her missing boyfriend and the father of her child, 26-year-old Terrell Sims. If anyone has seen him or knows anything, please come forward, Wardlaw tells the gathered volunteers, her voice breaking. His 4 children need their father to come home. The missing person case dominated local news. Wardlaw appeared in interviews, organized multiple search efforts, and maintained a consistent public presence, the image of a distraught girlfriend desperate to find her missing partner. But there was one critical detail Taylor Wardlaw didn't share with the search party volunteers or the media. Terrell Sims wasn't missing. He was already dead, and Taylor Wardlaw had killed him. 2 days before reporting him missing, Wardlaw shot Sims multiple times during a heated argument in their home. Rather than calling for help or turning herself in, she initiated an elaborate deception.
Yo, seriously, everything that I prayed for last night, I've got it so far. I have one more thing to get done today. Son, God has blessed everything that I've asked for. One more thing, y'all.
With her new boyfriend, Eddie Brown, she disposed of Sims's body near a creek and methodically removed evidence from their home. The truth would remain hidden for nearly 2 weeks. On January 3rd, 2022, police discovered Terrell Sims' body. The location wasn't random. It was precisely where evidence led investigators after they began to question Wardlaw's story. Near his body lay his discarded ankle monitor, a crucial piece of evidence that would help authorities reconstruct the timeline of events. Terrell Sims was known to friends and family as a devoted father trying to navigate the complexities of co-parenting 4 children while dealing with a volatile relationship. At just 26 years old, he balanced work responsibilities with his commitment to fatherhood. Those who knew him described a young man who, despite past mistakes, was working to build a stable future for his children. The discovery of his body transformed a missing person case into a homicide investigation, with attention quickly turning to the person who had been most vocal about finding him. Taylor Wardlaw's public persona contrasted sharply with private reality. To the community, she portrayed herself as a concerned girlfriend, leading efforts to find Sims. Yet investigators uncovered a history of jealousy, control, and domestic conflict that painted a very different picture. Text messages, witness statements, and physical evidence revealed Wardlaw's possessive behavior. She monitored Sims's movements, demanded access to his phone, and frequently accused him of infidelity. Friends described her as someone who could switch between caring partner and vengeful accuser depending on her suspicions at any given moment. Most shocking to those who had joined her search efforts was learning that while publicly searching for Sims, Wardlaw was already involved with Eddie Brown, the same man who helped her dispose of Sims' body. The case exemplifies how domestic violence can escalate to lethal outcomes when warning behaviors go unaddressed. While maintaining the public fiction of searching for her missing boyfriend, Wardlaw was actively working to conceal her crime. The performance was so convincing that even those close to the couple initially believed her distress was genuine. What drives someone to kill their partner and then organize a public search to find them? This contradiction lies at the heart of this case, a psychological complexity that reveals how some people can compartmentalize extreme behaviors while maintaining outward normalcy. In March 2024, more than 2 years after Terrell Sims' death, Taylor Wardlaw stood before a judge and pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter.
Tonight in Richland County, where a murder trial ends before it ever begins. 31-year-old Taylor Wardlaw pled guilty to killing her boyfriend, 26-year-old Terrell Sims, in December of 2021.
News 19's Cassidy Byer was in court today. She's joining us now with the details.
I felt she should have got more.
On what was supposed to be the first day of trial, 31-year-old Taylor Wardlaw changed her mind, and after being led into the courtroom in shackles, she pleaded guilty to killing her boyfriend, 26-year-old Terrell Sims. Rose
Finally admitting to the crime she had worked so diligently to hide. If you're finding this case as compelling as I do, take a moment right now to hit that like button. It really helps the channel reach more true crime enthusiasts like yourself. I've spent months researching this case, gathering court documents, and speaking with those connected to both Terrell and Taylor. There's so much more to uncover about the psychological factors that led to this tragedy and the evidence that eventually revealed the truth. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and enable notifications so you don't miss our upcoming videos exploring other cases where public personas masked deadly intentions. Now, let's continue examining how Taylor Wardlaw's relationship with Terrell Sims deteriorated into violence, jealousy, and ultimately murder. Taylor Wardlaw's life before the murder showed a pattern of behavior that would later prove significant. Though public records of her early years remain sparse, accounts from those who knew her paint a consistent picture. Residents of Columbia, South Carolina, who interacted with Wardlaw described her as having two distinct sides to her personality, one charming and attentive, the other suspicious and domineering. She could switch how she acted depending on who was watching, said one acquaintance who knew both Wardlaw and Sims. When others were around, she played the role of a devoted girlfriend. When they were alone, it was constant questioning and accusations. This duality became a defining trait in her interactions. Wardlaw maintained appearances while harboring deep insecurities that manifested as control tactics. Her relationships followed a consistent pattern: initial charm followed by escalating possessiveness. In 2018, Wardlaw and Terrell Sims began their relationship. What started with the ordinary excitement of a new connection quickly revealed troubling dynamics. Within months, those close to the couple noticed Wardlaw's growing need to monitor Sims's activities. She demanded access to his phone, questioned his whereabouts, and reacted with outbursts when she perceived any threat to her position. Family members later reported that Wardlaw tracked Sims's movements obsessively. She would call repeatedly if he didn't answer immediately, show up unexpectedly at places where he was supposed to be, and demand explanations for any interaction with other women, even casual conversations. She wanted to know where he was every minute of the day, said Sims's cousin in a statement to investigators. If he took too long coming back from the store, she would blow up his phone with texts accusing him of seeing other women. This high-pressure environment created a continuous state of tension. Sims, struggling to balance his responsibilities as a father of 4, with Wardlaw's demands for attention and loyalty, found himself increasingly isolated from friends and family. The relationship deteriorated further with each passing year. Arguments that began as verbal confrontations gradually escalated to physical altercations. Both Wardlaw and Sims engaged in behaviors that neighbors described as loud and aggressive, with disputes frequently spilling outside their home. In 2020, the situation reached a critical point. While 9 months pregnant, Wardlaw reported that Sims had threatened her life during an explosive argument. This incident resulted in his arrest and a court-ordered separation through a no-contact order, a legal measure designed to prevent further violence between them. Court documents from this period reveal the contradictory narratives that defined their relationship. During the hearing, Wardlaw described feeling unsafe and afraid for her unborn child. Yet within months of the baby's birth, despite the no-contact order remaining active, The couple had resumed living together. This pattern, separation followed by reconciliation despite legal intervention, demonstrated the complex hold they maintained on each other. Friends observed a push-pull dynamic where periods of apparent harmony would inevitably dissolve into accusations and conflicts. They couldn't seem to stay apart, even when they shouldn't have been together, explained a mutual friend who witnessed their relationship over years. One week they'd be posting happy family pictures, the next week one of them would be staying with friends after a blow-up. By mid-2021, their relationship had settled into a destructive routine. Wardlaw maintained strict oversight of Sims's communications, regularly checking his phone and social media accounts. Sims alternated between compliance and resistance, sometimes accepting her demands and other times pushing back against her control. Throughout this period, another troubling aspect emerged: Wardlaw's propensity for manipulating narratives. She would present herself as the victim in their conflicts, while simultaneously escalating tensions. This ability to reshape perceptions proved dangerously effective at isolating Sims from potential support systems. What makes this case particularly notable is how the couple continued co-parenting despite these harmful patterns. Their child, born following the 2020 domestic violence incident, lived in an environment where conflict had become normalized. Both parents appeared to compartmentalize their hostilities, maintaining the appearance of functional co-parents despite their increasingly volatile private interactions. By December 2021, their relationship had reached a breaking point. Wardlaw's controlling behaviors intensified while, unknown to Sims, she had begun a relationship with Eddie Brown. This web of deception added new pressure to an already unstable situation. The history between Wardlaw and Sims demonstrates how relationships can become pressure cookers when healthy boundaries are absent. Their pattern of conflict, temporary separation, and reunion created an environment where tensions accumulated without resolution. The domestic violence incident during Wardlaw's pregnancy served as a clear warning signal that went unheeded, with the pair resuming their relationship despite court intervention. This cycle of dysfunction established the conditions for what would ultimately become a fatal confrontation in their home. A tragedy, years in the making. December 20th, 2021 marked the point of no return in the troubled relationship between Taylor Wardlaw and Terrell Sims. What transpired that evening in their Columbia, South Carolina home would transform their domestic conflicts into a homicide investigation. The day began with mounting tensions. According to case records, Wardlaw had been increasingly fixated on suspicions about Sims's fidelity. Text messages recovered from her phone showed dozens of accusatory messages sent throughout the day, demanding explanations for his whereabouts and questioning who he had been in contact with. Witnesses in neighboring apartments later told investigators they heard the argument escalate around 9 p.m. The confrontation centered on Wardlaw's accusations that Sims was involved with another woman. These allegations weren't new. They had been a recurring theme in their arguments. But this night, the intensity reached unprecedented levels. You could hear her screaming about him cheating, saying she had proof, one neighbor reported. It got louder than their usual fights. The verbal confrontation quickly intensified. Physical evidence would later show that furniture had been overturned and items thrown during the altercation. Glass was shattered across the living room floor, suggesting a violent struggle before the shooting occurred. As the argument reached its peak, Wardlaw retrieved a firearm. Police reports indicate that multiple shots were fired, with evidence showing that Sims had been struck several times. Most telling was a fatal shot to his back, which forensic analysts later determined had been fired while Sims was turned away, a detail that contradicted initial claims of self-defense. The gunshots fell silent. Sims lay dead in their home. Wardlaw now faced a critical decision that would reveal much about her state of mind. She chose deception over confession. Phone records obtained during the investigation showed that within minutes of the shooting, Wardlaw made a call, not to emergency services, but to Eddie Brown. This call introduced another layer to the case that surprised many following the investigation. Eddie Brown wasn't merely an acquaintance or friend Wardlaw turned to in crisis. He was her boyfriend, a relationship she had maintained while still living with Sims. This revelation helped investigators understand the complex motivations behind what happened next. Brown arrived at the residence approximately 40 minutes after the shooting. Security camera footage from a neighboring property captured his vehicle pulling into the driveway at 10:17 p.m. He remained inside the home for over 2 hours. What occurred during those hours was meticulously planned. Rather than reporting the incident, Wardlaw and Brown developed a strategy to dispose of evidence and conceal the murder. They wrapped Sims's body and transported it using a rental car Brown had obtained earlier that day, a detail that suggested some level of premeditation or at least remarkable quick thinking under pressure. The rental car was later found to contain blood evidence matching Sims's DNA, despite attempts to clean the vehicle. A bullet hole discovered in the car's hood during forensic examination provided additional physical evidence linking the vehicle to the crime. Together, Wardlaw and Brown transported Sims's body to a creek area outside Columbia. The location wasn't random. It was isolated enough to potentially delay discovery, yet accessible enough for quick disposal. Near this location, they discarded Sims's ankle monitor, which he had been required to wear following the previous domestic violence incident. Phone location data obtained by investigators mapped their movements that night, showing the route from the residence to the creek and back. The digital trail contradicted the story Wardlaw would later tell police about Sims simply leaving their home. By the early hours of December 21st, Wardlaw and Brown had returned to her residence. They spent hours removing bloodstains, discarding potential evidence, and constructing the narrative that would become her missing person report the following day. What makes this case particularly disturbing is the calculated nature of the response. Rather than a panicked reaction, evidence points to deliberate choices made to conceal the truth. Within hours of taking Sims' life, Wardlaw was already laying groundwork for her deception. The fatal night of December 20th transformed what might have been classified as a domestic homicide into something more complex. A murder, followed by an elaborate cover-up involving a romantic partner unknown to the victim's family or community. This hidden relationship added motive for both the crime and the deception that followed. As dawn broke on December 21st, Wardlaw began implementing the next phase of her plan, reporting Terrell Sims as missing and presenting herself as a concerned girlfriend desperate to find him. In the hours following Terrell Sims' death, Eddie Brown's involvement deepened. As Wardlaw's new boyfriend, he played a crucial role in the aftermath that went beyond simply helping dispose of the body. Evidence gathered by investigators revealed that Brown assisted in cleaning the crime scene, removing blood evidence from the home, and helping construct the story Wardlaw would tell authorities. Brown's actions showed a significant commitment to protecting Wardlaw. As documented in police reports, he used his personal connections to obtain cleaning supplies without creating a paper trail, and advised Wardlaw on how to act when filing a missing person report. Text messages recovered from their phones showed detailed exchanges about what story to present to police. "Let's make sure we know exactly what we're saying," one message from Brown read. "Say he left angry after you argued. Don't mention anything else." On December 22nd, 2 days after the murder, Wardlaw walked into the Columbia Police Department to file a missing person report. According to the statement she provided, Sims had left their home after an argument and hadn't returned or contacted anyone, a narrative carefully constructed to deflect suspicion. The report Wardlaw filed claimed she had last seen Sims on the evening of December 20th, stating he had walked out during their disagreement and not returned. She described him as wearing clothing that investigators would later determine had been disposed of along with his body. She also provided a list of his friends who might know his whereabouts, individuals she had not actually contacted before filing the report. What made Wardlaw's deception particularly effective was her apparent willingness to aid the investigation. She volunteered Sims's phone records, provided photos for missing person flyers, and appeared genuinely distressed when speaking with officers. This performance was convincing enough that initial police response treated the case as a standard missing person investigation. The missing person report generated local media coverage, which Wardlaw leveraged to further her deception. She gave interviews expressing concern for Sims, highlighting his role as a father to 4 children who needed him. These public appearances served dual purposes, maintaining her cover story while monitoring the progress of the investigation. Perhaps the most calculating aspect of Wardlaw's behavior was her organization of a community search party on December 27th. She coordinated with local residents, distributed flyers with Sims's photo and description, and assigned search areas, all while knowing exactly where his body had been left. During the search, Wardlaw strategically directed volunteers away from the creek where Sims' body had been disposed. Witnesses later recalled how she seemed particularly concerned with managing which areas were being searched, insisting certain locations were already covered when they weren't. She kept saying we didn't need to check the areas toward the creek, one volunteer later told investigators. She was adamant about keeping the search in neighborhoods and parks. Meanwhile, Eddie Brown maintained a low profile during the search efforts, deliberately avoiding appearing alongside Wardlaw in public. This separation proved strategic. It prevented anyone from questioning their relationship, while Wardlaw presented herself as Sims' concerned girlfriend. The deception began to unravel when an anonymous tip reached investigators on January 2, 2022. A friend of Wardlaw's, troubled by inconsistencies in her story, contacted police with information suggesting her involvement in Sims' disappearance. This tip, combined with mounting evidence from phone records and witness statements, led investigators to the creek area. On January 3, 2022, police discovered Terrell Sims' body. The location matched cell phone data that placed both Wardlaw and Brown in the area on the night of December 20th. Nearby, officers found Sims' discarded ankle monitor, a critical piece of evidence connecting the body to the crime. The discovery transformed the missing person case into a homicide investigation, with Wardlaw quickly becoming the primary suspect. Within 48 hours of finding Sims' body, police had gathered enough evidence to bring Wardlaw in for questioning, where inconsistencies in her story became impossible to maintain. The twists in this case are truly remarkable, from organizing search parties to secretly dating the man who helped hide the crime. If you're finding this deep dive valuable, now's the perfect time to hit that subscribe button. Your support allows us to continue investigating cases like this one. Also, drop a comment below sharing what you think was the most shocking aspect of Wardlaw's deception. I read every comment and often use your insights in future videos. Now, let's examine how investigators pieced together the evidence that finally exposed the truth behind Terrell Sims' murder. Following the discovery of Terrell Sims' body, investigators assembled a comprehensive case against Taylor Wardlaw through methodical collection of physical evidence, digital records, and witness accounts. The investigation relied heavily on forensic analysis that contradicted Wardlaw's version of events. Blood evidence proved crucial to the case. Despite Wardlaw's attempts to clean the crime scene, forensic technicians discovered traces of blood matching Sims' DNA in multiple locations throughout their home. Using specialized lighting and chemical treatments, investigators revealed blood spatter patterns consistent with multiple gunshots. These patterns contradicted Wardlaw's claim that Sims had simply left after an argument. The blood evidence told us exactly what happened in that room, noted the lead detective in court documents. No matter how thoroughly someone cleanses, blood leaves microscopic traces that tell the story. Perhaps most damaging was the evidence recovered from the rental car. Brown had used the vehicle to transport Sims' body, and despite efforts to clean it, blood residue remained detectable through forensic testing. Additionally, investigators discovered a bullet hole in the hood of the car, physical proof linking the vehicle directly to the shooting. Sims' ankle monitor, recovered near his body, provided critical timeline information. Data from the device showed it had been functioning normally until 9:47 p.m. on December 20th, precisely when the confrontation escalated. This timestamp aligned perfectly with neighbor reports of hearing gunshots. Digital evidence further strengthened the case against Wardlaw and Brown. Their cell phone records revealed extensive communication before, during, and after the murder. Location data, placed both phones at Wardlaw's residence during the time of the shooting, then traveling together to the creek where Sims's body was found, and finally returning to Wardlaw's home. Text messages recovered from their devices documented their relationship and contained discussions about Wardlaw's jealousy regarding Sims. Messages exchanged after December 20th showed coordination of their stories and explicit mentions of cleaning supplies and evidence removal. The investigation gained significant momentum from witness testimony. A neighbor reported hearing the argument escalate on December 20th, followed by sounds consistent with gunshots. Friends of Wardlaw came forward with accounts of her controlling behavior and frequent accusations of infidelity against Sims. The anonymous tip from Wardlaw's friend proved particularly valuable. This witness revealed that Wardlaw had confided details about the shooting and subsequent cover-up. According to court records, the tipster provided information only someone with knowledge of the crime could have known, including the location where the body had been disposed. Psychological assessment of Wardlaw's motives pointed to a lethal combination of jealousy, possessiveness, and fear of abandonment. Investigators noted that despite her relationship with Brown, Wardlaw maintained controlling behaviors toward Sims. Experts who reviewed the case highlighted how Wardlaw's extreme reactions to perceived infidelity, combined with access to a firearm during an intense emotional confrontation, created conditions for violence. The investigation reached its definitive turning point when forensic analysis of Sims's wounds revealed a fatal shot to his back. This evidence fundamentally contradicted any potential self-defense claim, as it indicated Sims was moving away from Wardlaw when shot. This detail, combined with evidence of multiple gunshots, shifted the case from a potential crime of passion to what prosecutors would argue showed elements of deliberation. By early March 2022, investigators had compiled a comprehensive case against both Wardlaw and Brown. The evidence painted a clear picture of a domestic homicide, followed by a calculated attempt to mislead investigators and the public. This mountain of evidence would ultimately lead to Wardlaw facing serious charges and the prospect of a lengthy prison sentence. On March 3, 2024, more than 2 years after Terrell Sims was killed, Taylor Wardlaw stood before a judge in the Richland County Courthouse. After extensive legal preparations and facing overwhelming evidence, Wardlaw made a decision that surprised many following the case. She entered a guilty plea on the first day of her trial. Wardlaw pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter, avoiding a full trial that would have aired additional details about the murder and cover-up. The plea agreement included the dismissal of additional firearm charges that could have extended her sentence substantially. The judge sentenced Wardlaw to 20 years in state prison, a substantial punishment, yet one that generated mixed reactions from those connected to the case. Prosecutors described the sentence as appropriate given the circumstances and Wardlaw's acceptance of responsibility through her guilty plea. For Sims' family, however,
Where she would have got life, to tell you the truth, about what she did. My brother was trying to leave her. He didn't want to be with her anymore, and she just couldn't accept it.
the outcome felt insufficient. During the victim impact statements, his mother spoke directly to Wardlaw about the devastation caused not only by her son's death, but by the weeks of deception that followed. "You took my son from his children, then pretended to help find him," she stated in court. "The pain wasn't just his death, but the lies you told while we searched for him." Several family members expressed frustration that the plea agreement removed potential additional charges related to evidence tampering and obstruction of justice. They pointed to the calculated nature of the cover-up as deserving additional punishment beyond the manslaughter conviction. Eddie Brown's case remains ongoing, with prosecutors pursuing charges related to accessory after the fact and evidence tampering. His involvement demonstrates how secondary participants can become entangled in escalating criminal behavior. The Sims-Wardlaw case exemplifies how multiple opportunities for intervention were missed. Their relationship included numerous identifiable risk factors for lethal violence that appeared long before the murder. The most notable missed opportunity came after the 2020 domestic violence incident. Despite a court-ordered separation, the couple resumed living together with minimal oversight or intervention. The legal system, having documented their volatile relationship, did not provide adequate follow-up or enforcement of the protective measures initially put in place. Friends and family members later acknowledged seeing concerning patterns, but feeling powerless to intervene effectively. Several reported witnessing controlling behaviors, excessive jealousy, and verbal confrontations that hinted at the potential for violence. For domestic violence prevention advocates, this case highlights how the pathway to lethal violence often includes recognizable warning stages. The pronounced jealousy, obsessive monitoring, and repeated cycles of conflict followed by reconciliation all represented known risk factors that went unaddressed. The case has prompted local officials to review how domestic violence cases are monitored after initial court interventions. Particular attention has focused on improving enforcement of no-contact orders and developing better assessment tools to identify high-risk situations before they escalate to violence.